Hi everyone, my name's April Workman. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my story because it's usually pretty hard to talk about for a lot of people. And unfortunately, I would say that in the beginning I was definitely embarrassed too, but you don't have to be, and there's a lot of things that you can do about it. So, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis January 2013, and it's really kind of awkward because you can only run across the house so many times until your fiance is like, "What are you doing?" And I didn't really know because I didn't have control of my bowels anymore at 25 years old, which is extremely challenging. Going to work, obviously not knowing when it's going to strike, what foods make a difference. Everything at that point just really felt like a landmine. And I mean, I didn't really know what to do other than I'm gonna have to go see a doctor and I'm going to have to tell him that I have no control. Like, I mean, diarrhea, constipation, everything that you could think about, and just lack of control. I mean, being out in public and always searching for restrooms, not wanting to go to events, not wanting to eat. I mean, trying certain foods, trying fiber pills, trying more vegetables. I mean, the list really goes on for, how much you try to solve it yourself until you start seeing blood and you realize that you really are just completely out of control at that point and you can't do it on your own. So, went to the doctor and cried my way through that appointment. It's usually pretty awkward because you're talking to a complete stranger and you're scared out of your mind because you have no control over whether or not you might have an accident in your pants and you can't stop it. So, cried through that appointment and he thought, maybe you just have hemorrhoids. And great, wonderful. Never thought I'd be happy or excited to say that I have hemorrhoids, but I would have been at that point because it sounds like something that you can solve a lot easier than an autoimmune disease, which never even entered my mind at that point. So we did the colonoscopy, which is not that big of a deal. I mean, you're not going to remember it the next day, but prep sucks. You want to be like 5 feet from the toilet because you're going to be running. Not fun, but, lay in bed, watch some movies, be really close to the bathroom, and then that's it. Wake up the next day, go in for your colonoscopy. They give you just general anesthesia to kind of knock you out, but as soon as they stop administering it, you wake up, so it's not anything crazy. They asked me what I wanted to eat and where I was going right after my appointment, and I said Chick-fil-A. So that's where I went. And I don't remember anything other than they make you fart when you come out or come to. And that's really awkward, but you're kind of high on life anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I think that I had a wobbly trip to the bathroom at that point. And it really wasn't that big of a deal. I actually felt fantastic afterwards because they basically clear out all of your gut bacteria with the prep. So it felt really good. Went and had my fried chicken and french fries and my Diet Coke. And just kind of waited. Life went on. So I felt like I was kind of in the clear at that point. We have some images. Things are probably going to be okay. My doctor was like, yeah, whatever. You'll be good. We'll just put you on some antibiotics and see where it takes you. A lot of drugs out there that we can regulate this with. So I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks before the colonoscopy. I was off for a week and then put back on antibiotics. And I went back for my follow-up, and he was like, well, it's a little worse than we thought. You have ulcerative colitis, and it's an autoimmune disease. It's something that you have to deal with for the rest of your life. We have lots of drugs to treat them. But I started reading the labels, and it says that some of the drugs that I was taking could cause ulcerative colitis. So I was a little confused at that point, but I obviously wanted to feel better right away, so started taking them, and just really got worse. And I didn't know what I was going to do other than, going back to the doctor every week or two to get a new pill. Just wasn't working. I did that like 3 times, and he kept handing me stuff, and I kept telling him this wasn't working. So I decided to change my diet. I did an elimination diet, and thanks to the help of my now husband, I actually stuck with it for 4 months, which was torture for about a month, and then I started seeing some amazing results from it, so it made it easier to stick to. But the basics of it, it was no wheat, gluten, sugar, processed foods, dairy, or alcohol for 4 months. A lot of my symptoms went away. I was able to get off all the medication that I was on. And what else? I lost 35 pounds. Just the inflammation melted away. It was the most amazing thing. And I went back to my doctor to try to explain to him, look what's happening. Like, I feel better. A lot of my symptoms have gone away. I'm healing. I've lost, maybe 15, 20 pounds at that point. And he was like, so are you just done taking medication? And I was like, what? What? Like, isn't the goal for me to feel better? And I do, and I'm not taking it. He's like, well, it was the medication that helped you. And I was like, well, I stopped taking it like 3 weeks ago. He was like, oh, well, that's what helped. So we obviously weren't on the same page, and I did try one more pill, and it set me back for about 2 weeks. And at that point, the doctor was fired, and I continued with the diet change and continued to see amazing results. After that, I went gluten-free for, about a year until I realized that I'm probably really sensitive to corn. And it's hard when you're working through food allergies and food sensitivities because you don't exactly know what it is because we eat so many things, and food sensitivities don't hit you until, 2 or 3 days later. You may never know that it was the gluten-free cookie you ate or was it the coffee. Like, you really have to eliminate a lot of things in order to really figure out what's going on. So it was another challenge to give up my gluten-free products, my processed products, when I realized that it might be corn that's giving me a lot of issues. So, had to say goodbye to the prepackaged waffles and the cookies and these little tortilla chip things that I really liked. And you kind of have to start all over. Like, the elimination diet was one thing, but can you really do that for the rest of your life? Probably not. Went gluten-free, but still continued to eat the processed products and still had a lot of issues. So that was tough. Last year in July, I decided, the next step, because a lot of my symptoms had come back, but not quite as severe, like no spasming or anything, but just a lot of inconsistencies, and still felt like I was out of control with it. So after that, I decided to go grain-free, which I really had no idea what I was doing. So I just experimented a lot and read up about the paleo diet and realized that they tend to use real whole foods, and what's cool about it is that you can virtually make anything you want, and there's no corn, soy, wheat, gluten, dairy, processed sugar. It just seemed like that was kind of my next step.